How's it going, everyone? Today we got a video. We're back on the RX-7 again. So it's been a little bit. We did a lot of content with the Civic. We got that thing so it sits right, and I'm pretty happy with the progress that made. But it's time to get back to the RX-7. And in today's video, we are going to be putting new jets in the carburetor. So we had some issues with the carburetor on this engine setup, and I was just basically trying to figure out what the issue was. We ended up drilling out the jets because we had a lean, the car was lean under like light load. Ended up being a bad PCV valve. Replaced the PCV valve, and then now we still have those drilled out carburetor jets, and we have a rich condition. So we're going to be putting these back in, which that was what was in it. These are 65s. We're going to be putting 65s back in it. But yeah, so being that I have to take the carburetor off, pull it all apart, and put these jets in, I figured I'd make a little how-to on essentially how to rejet your carburetor. We're at a elevation where you can just run stock jets that come in things. So like propane appliances, for like example, my shop heaters, you can just use regular jets for those, cars, lawnmowers, etc. So, all right, let's get into it. We're gonna open the hood on this thing. We'll disconnect everything, get the carburetor out of there, get it over the bench, and tear it apart. So we've got some 13s. So this setup is pretty easy. I believe it's just, that was actually loose. Oh, it wasn't very tight either. We've got four half-inch bolts that hold the carburetor to the intake manifold. And then we have, that one was good and tight. And then we've got a flathead for the hose clamp on the carburetor, just to get the fuel line off. And then we have a bolt going through this for your throttle linkage. That should be good. Actually, we've got the hose on the back here for the PCV. There we go. So we're gonna bring this over to the bench. I guess we'll just start taking it apart. Here we are, we got it out of the car. Got it on the bench. I've got it in this little oil pan just because there is going to be gas inside of here. So, yeah, I guess we can just let the gas run out of it. It is a big deal here, but you'll take the side off that has your metering block, which on this one, this side, this is just a single feed. Loosen that up. See, it's already leaking all under here. Pull that out. Not gonna lie, it's been a little bit since I've had this apart. feel this starting to come apart. And then we also have a tube that crosses these over, so you just want to make sure you pull it out nice and straight. There we go. And just like that, there's our jets. We've got our new ones, and these just screw in with a screwdriver. I remember when we took these out to drill them, that these were tight, tight, tight. We also rebuilt this whole carburetor. All these gaskets and stuff are new. But we don't need these anymore. So yeah, that's how you take that apart. And then we've got our block here, well, our box here, sorry, with our new jets. Make sure you have the jet size that is right for your elevation, your temperature, stuff like that. This always ran its best on stock jets. So let's thread these back in. Get them started by hand anyways. There. I honestly thought that this was going to take more time, but I guess I just didn't remember how easy this come apart and goes together. I think that this block also, I don't know if there's anything holding this block to the main part, but not going to take this thing further apart than I don't need to, so. And while we have this here in our hands, I'm just going to double check, make sure all these are just as tight. I think it's good to go. That was a quick jet swap, and we'll put this back on the car. Now that we got this all back together, jets changed, make sure you line your gasket up. Grab your nuts and bolts, or just your bolts. And you're just going to want to tighten everything back down. There, now that we have all 4 of those bolts in, we'll hook the throttle linkage back up. And then once we get this in place, we can make sure that we hook up our vacuum advance for our distributor again. And then once we get that done, we should be able to move on to the fuel line. Make sure your fuel line's good and tight, get the clamp all set. A lot of drift tracks that I actually drive at make us use fuel clamps that you would find on high pressure systems. So just gonna make sure that that's always good. Then once you get your fuel line all hooked up, hook up your vacuum advance again. I use the bottom port because it pulls vacuum when you're at idle. So you want your distributor to be adding more ignition timing while at idle. And then when you push down on the throttle, the vacuum goes away, and then you just run off of the manual curve of the distributor. We had a lot of testing back and forth, and with this engine setup, being down here on the bottom of it is how this engine needs to be set up. A lot of people debate whether you want to run it off of the top nipple or the side one or the bottom, and it could be argued all day, but from my understanding on turbo cars and stuff like that, as the power increases, you want to decrease the timing. So rather than adding it on top of the mechanical curve, it just makes sense to have a lot of ignition timing while the engine's at idle to keep it cool, because this thing has a crazy overheating problem, or it used to. So there we go, we got the carburetor all on again. Now we'll just kind of set everything up again, get it all tight, and that should be a wrap. My apologies for this video too if I sound a little nasally or I'm like breathing in and stuff. Just kind of getting over a cold. I had some back pain for a few days, and then also had and then got sick after the back pain. So yay for me, but still pushing on, and I'm just picking up some tools now. But since we got the carburetor, making a bunch of noise, but now that we got the carburetor installed, we can turn on the fuel pump, and we'll just make sure that everything there is all good, make sure we don't have any leaks, and then we'll be good to go. When doing a carburetor jet swap like that, I would assume that we would have to reset your idle circuit again and kind of adjust the carburetor, get it all going good again. Your like full throttle stuff should be fine. You just should have to adjust your idle circuit. But this engine likes to run lean anyways at idle just because of the cam. A lot of people have a really hard time getting this cam to work very efficiently. And I guess something when it just has a lot of fuel or it's at a good air to fuel ratio, it doesn't run that right, and you have to turn the idle really far up. And I'm not talking like, oh, it has to be like 800 or something. It literally has to be like 1700 RPM or it'll just be dying. So when you lean it out, I'm able to idle it at about like 11 or 1200, and everything seems pretty happy at that point. We had to recurve the distributor too, just because it was starting to advance the timing with just being at that idle. So this thing had a big mess when we rebuilt it this last time, but it's pretty well dialed in now. So we'll turn the fuel on, and we'll just give the carburetor a check over, make sure it's all good to go, and hopefully we don't have any leaks. Looks like fuel to me, and that thing is humming. Okay, so that's gonna do it for this video. I appreciate you guys stopping in and checking it out. We are going to be doing another video here on how to install a wideband setup. I put in the wideband just real quickly so it's not permanent. I put the wideband setup for reading air to fuel ratio in the RX-7 when I had this carburetor issue last fall, but I took it out of my Turbo Civic. I'm more focused on driving the RX-7 currently than my turbo car, So I want to have a wideband setup in this. So what we're gonna do is we're going to install it permanently, because right now it's just all, the wires are just ran across the floor and stuff. We're going to install it correctly. We'll figure out where we want to mount the gauge, and maybe I'll have some type of hot swap setup so that we can all just take it really quick out of this car to put back in that one. Just so whenever I want to go back and forth between the two, I can. But yeah, so we're gonna install that permanently in this car, and we're gonna film it for you guys. So, all right, remember, every 3 days we do videos. Shorts come out every single night. I play with the times that they come out. Sometimes they're out at 7, sometimes they're out at 9. It all really depends what the algorithm is doing. Sometimes I upload one and it gets 200 views, and then I delete it and upload it an hour and a half later and it gets 2,000 views. So it is what it is, but stay tuned for those. Those are every single day, and then we do a video every 3 days. We'll see you in 3 days with the install on the wideband air to fuel ratio setup. So thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you next time.